The day I realized my HOA was running a criminal enterprise started when I noticed something odd in my Ring doorbell footage. My neighbor's vacation rental had 17 different sets of guests check in during a 30-day period. Despite HOA rules explicitly banning short-term rentals, I'm Alex Chen, 31 years old, senior software engineer at a tech startup, specializing in AI-powered data analysis. After 5 years of startup grind and finally getting equity that actually paid off when we were acquired, I had enough money to buy my first real home in Austin. Texas Meridian Heights was exactly what a newly minted millionaire tech worker would choose. Modern luxury townhomes, rooftop terraces, walkable distance to downtown Austin, fiber optic internet, and an HOA that promised professional management and community standards. The townhomes started at $600,000, topped out around $900,000. Young professionals, dual-income couples, a few retirees who'd sold larger houses. The demographic skewed wealthy, educated, and busy. Exactly the kind of people who wouldn't have time to closely monitor what the HOA was actually doing. I closed on my townhome, 2,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, rooftop deck with downtown views, in September 2023. My girlfriend Maya and I moved in with plans to get engaged, start a family, build a life. The first month was perfect. Then I started noticing things that didn't add up. My next-door neighbor's unit, 3847 Meridian Heights Drive, seemed to have constant turnover of occupants. Different cars in the driveway every few days. Luggage being rolled in and out. People who clearly didn't live there fumbling with door codes. I initially assumed the owner, someone named David Thornton according to property records, was running an Airbnb. Annoying, but not my business. Until I read Section 8.4 of the HOA covenants. Short-term rentals of less than 6 months are strictly prohibited. Properties may only be occupied by owners or tenants with minimum 6-month lease agreements. I checked the Airbnb and VRBO listings for Austin. Sure enough, 3847 Meridian Heights Drive was listed as luxury downtown Austin townhome, $350 night. The HOA had explicit rules against this. So why wasn't it being enforced? I sent an email to the HOA management company, Meridian Property Services, reporting the violation. I included screenshots of the Airbnb listing, my Ring footage showing constant guest turnover, and citation of the covenant provision. The response came 3 days later from someone named Patricia Simmons. HOA President, thank you for your concern. We are aware of the property at 3847 and have determined it is in compliance with community standards. No action is required. Patricia Simmons. That made no sense. The unit was clearly operating as a short-term rental in direct violation of the rules. How was that compliant? I decided to dig deeper. Not because I particularly cared about short-term rentals. Honestly, if they weren't disruptive. I didn't mind, but because something about Patricia's dismissive response triggered my engineering instincts. When a system gives an output that doesn't match expected logic, there's usually a hidden variable. I started with public records. David Thornton, owner of 3847, had purchased the property in 2021 for $625,000. Tax records showed his mailing address as a P.O. box, not the actual property. Business registration showed he owned a company called Thornton Investment Properties, LLC. Search that LLC. It owned 17 properties. In Meridian Heights, nearly 15% of the entire 120-unit development, 17 properties, all owned by the same person. In a community where short-term rentals were supposedly banned, I checked Airbnb and VRBO listings. 13 of those 17 properties were actively listed as short-term rentals, averaging $300–400 per night. Quick math. 13 properties. X $350 or night average, X 25 nights booked per month. $13,750 in monthly gross revenue. Nearly $1.4 million annually. Someone was running a massive short-term rental operation in a community that explicitly prohibited it, and the HOA president claimed everything was compliant. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a scheme. I'm a software engineer. When I see patterns, I build systems to analyze them. I spent the next 2 weeks building what I privately called HOA Tracker, a custom script that would help me understand what was really happening. The system did several things. Scraped public property records to identify all owners in Meridian Heights cross-referenced, those owners with business entity registrations monitored, Airbnb VRBO listings for addresses in our development. Analyzed my Ring doorbell. Footage using facial recognition to count unique visitors at neighboring properties tracked. HOA violation reports filed through the management portal compared. Violation enforcement across different property owners. I let it run for 30 days, collecting data 24/7. The results were damning. Finding number 1. Thornton Investment Properties LLC didn't just own 17 properties. The same individual, David Thornton, owned or co-owned 4 other LLCs that collectively owned another 11 properties in Meridian Heights. Total, 28 properties out of 120 units, nearly 25% of the entire development. Finding number 2. All 28 of these properties were operating as short-term rentals. Combined gross revenue, approximately $3.2 million annually. Finding number 3, David Thornton was listed as property manager for Meridian Property Services, the company that managed our HOA. Finding 4. Patricia Simmons, HOA president, was registered as co-owner of 2 of Thornton's LLCs. Finding number 5. In the past year, 127 violation reports had been filed against various properties. Not a single violation report against any Thornton-owned property had resulted in fines or action. Meanwhile, residents who filed complaints about Thornton's properties were subsequently hit with violations themselves: parking citations, landscaping violations, noise complaints. This wasn't just one guy running illegal rentals. This was the HOA president and property manager colluding to run a multi-million-dollar rental operation while using HOA authority to punish anyone who complained. I documented everything: spreadsheets, network, diagrams, screenshots, property records, LLC registrations, revenue calculations, complaint logs. I built a 47-page report with data visualizations that would make any prosecutor salivate. Then I did something that would either make me a hero or get me sued into oblivion. I sent it to every single homeowner in Meridian Heights. The email went out at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning to all 120 units. Subject: your HOA is running a 3.2 illegal rental scheme. Full evidence attached. I'm Alex Chen, resident at 3841 Meridian Heights. Over the past 2 months, I've discovered that our HOA president and property manager are operating a massive short-term rental business in direct violation of our community covenants. They control 28 properties generating 3.2 matters annually while using HOA authority to silence complaints. Attached is complete documentation including property records, financial analysis, and evidence of retaliation against residents who reported violations. I'm calling for 1. Immediate resignation of Patricia Simmons and removal of Meridian Property Services. 2. Emergency homeowner meeting to elect new board. First, external audit of all HOA finances. 4. Legal action to recover damages. If you'd like to discuss organizing a response, I'm hosting a meeting at my home tonight at 7 p.m. All residents welcome. Alex Chen, Unit 3841. My phone started ringing before 8 a.m. By noon, 47 residents had confirmed attendance at the meeting. By 5 p.m., my email had been forwarded to local news outlets and the Texas Attorney General's office. By 6 p.m., Patricia Simmons sent a cease and desist letter threatening to sue me for defamation, harassment, and breach of privacy. By 7 p.m., 63 residents were crammed into my townhome on my rooftop deck, spilling into the street outside. I presented the full data, every chart, every connection, every piece of evidence. The room was silent except for occasional gasps and angry muttering. When I finished, a woman in her 50s stood up. I'm Jennifer Park, Unit 3712. Last year I complained about noise from a short-term rental next door. Within a week I received 5 violations for things like my mailbox being slightly faded and my trash bins visible from the street for 2 hours on a non-collection day. I paid $2,400 in fines. Now I know why. Others shared similar stories. A man who'd complained about partying renters got cited for his landscaping. A couple who'd asked about the rental policy suddenly faced an audit of their home business, claiming they violated the No Commercial Activity Covenant. This is retaliation, someone said. It's a protection racket. It's also fraud, added a man who identified himself as Marcus Thompson, a tax attorney. If the HOA president is personally profiting from rental income, while using HOA authority to protect her business interests. That's embezzlement. The HOA fees we pay for enforcement are being used to enable her illegal operation. What do? Jennifer asked. We fight back, I said. But we need to do it right. Legal, organized, documented. I have the data. We need lawyers, accountants, and enough homeowners willing to push for change. By the end of the night, we'd formed Meridian Heights Homeowners Coalition with 71 members. Marcus agreed to lead legal strategy. Jennifer took communications. I handled data and evidence. We divided responsibilities, filing complaints with the Texas Real Estate Commission, requesting emergency board elections, hiring a forensic accountant, and contacting attorneys specializing in HOA fraud. Patricia's response was immediate and vicious. The next day I received an official HOA violation notice. My rooftop deck furniture violated aesthetic standards. Fine, $500. Maya received a notice that her car, legally parked in our assigned spot, was somehow in violation of parking rules. Fine, $250. I received another notice claiming my Ring doorbell violated privacy standards. Fine, $500. 3 violations totaling $250 in 24 hours. It was blatant retaliation, and I documented every single piece of it. The coalition members were hit with similar harassment. 63 residents received sudden violations within 1 week. The fines totaled over $43,000. Patricia had made a crucial mistake. She'd attacked so many people simultaneously that the retaliation pattern was undeniable. Our attorney, Sarah Kim from a firm specializing in HOA litigation, filed an emergency petition with Travis County District Court seeking temporary restraining order against HOA enforcement actions, preliminary injunction removing Patricia and Meridian Property Services appointment of neutral third-party receiver to manage HOA preservation of all financial records. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, my data analysis continued revealing more problems. I'd built a second system that I called Follow the Money. Using public records, business registrations, bank routing numbers visible in HOA financial reports, and corporate ownership structures, I mapped where HOA funds were actually going. What I found was staggering. Meridian Property Services received $180,000 annually for HOA management. Market rate for a 120-unit development should be about $50,000, but it got worse. Meridian Property Services subcontracted to other companies for services. Elite Landscaping Services, $145,000 year Meridian. Security Systems, $67,000 year Professional. Maintenance Solution, $89,000 year Legal. Advisory Services LLC, $54,000 my year every hour. Single one of these companies was owned by either David Thornton, Patricia Simmons, or their immediate family members. Total, $535,000 in annual HOA expenditures flowing to companies controlled by the people running the HOA. Our HOA fees were $450 month per unit. With 120 units, annual revenue was $648,000. Over 80% of HOA funds were being paid to companies owned by the board. This was systematic looting disguised as property management. I updated my report and sent it to Sarah, our attorney. She forwarded it to the Texas Attorney General and the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. Alex, she said when we spoke, this isn't just HOA corruption. This is wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering. You've uncovered a multi-year criminal enterprise. The restraining order hearing became the turning point. Judge Maria Gonzalez presided. Sarah presented our evidence, the property ownership maps, the retaliation pattern, the financial flowcharts, testimony from 17 residents about targeted harassment. Patricia's attorney, expensive, Dallas firm partner named Bradford Mills, argued that I was a disgruntled resident conducting illegal surveillance and making wild accusations. Judge Gonzalez cut him off. Counselor, public property records aren't illegal surveillance, and these accusations are backed by documentary evidence. Does your client deny owning rental properties that violate HOA covenants? The covenant interpretation is within the board's discretion. Does she deny receiving payments from companies that the HOA pays for services? Those are arm's-length transactions. Does she deny issuing 63 violations to residents within days of them joining a coalition questioning her authority? Bradford had no good answer for that one. Judge Gonzalez granted the restraining order. All pending violations were suspended. Patricia and Meridian Property Services were temporarily removed from HOA management. A neutral receiver was appointed to manage affairs until new elections could be held. The judge's final words: "This court finds sufficient evidence of financial impropriety and retaliation to warrant immediate intervention. Criminal referrals are appropriate and will be forwarded to relevant authorities." Patricia and David left the courtroom surrounded by reporters. Their lawyer tried to shield them, but someone caught Patricia on camera saying, "These people are just jealous they didn't think of it first." That soundbite went viral within hours. Local news ran it on loop. National outlets picked it up. We became the poster child for HOA corruption in America. The forensic audit took 6 weeks. When the results came in, they were even worse than I'd calculated. Total misappropriated funds over 5 years, $2.7 million. The auditors discovered that Patricia and David hadn't just been overcharging for services. They'd been creating fake invoices for work never performed, inflating actual costs by 300–400%, and routing HOA funds through shell companies before transferring to personal accounts. The criminal investigation moved forward simultaneously. Federal prosecutors built a case for mail fraud using U.S. mail to send fraudulent invoices. Wire fraud, electronic, transfers of stolen funds, money, laundering, concealing criminal proceeds through shell companies, a conspiracy. To commit fraud theft from a housing organization emergency, HOA elections were held under court supervision. Our coalition ran a full slate of candidates. We won every seat. Our first act as the new board, filing a civil lawsuit against Patricia Simmons, David Thornton, Meridian Property Services, and all associated shell companies, seeking recovery of the $2.7 million plus punitive damages. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 6 hours, walking the jury through my data analysis, explaining how I discovered the scheme, demonstrating the financial flows using animated visualizations I'd built. Specifically for the trial, the jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Verdict: liable. On all counts, compensatory damages, $2.7 million punitive. Damages, $4.5 million attorney fees, $780,000 total judgment, $798 million. The criminal trial came 3 months later. Patricia and David were each convicted on multiple counts. Patricia Simmons, 6 years federal prison, $500,000 fine, restitution. David Thornton, 8 years federal prison, $750,000 fine, restitution. All 28 properties were seized under criminal asset forfeiture. The HOA purchased them at auction using the judgment proceeds, then sold them to legitimate homeowners with covenants explicitly banning short-term rentals. I testified before the Texas legislature about HOA reform. The state passed the Meridian Heights Act, requiring independent financial audits for HOAs over 50 units, public disclosure of all board member business, relationship, strict limits on related party transactions, fast-track legal remedies for retaliation claims, criminal penalties for HOA officials who commit fraud 2 years after sending that first email. Meridian Heights is a completely different community. Real property management company, transparent finances, engaged homeowners, no more illegal rentals. Property values actually increased 8%. Turns out buyers prefer communities where the HOA isn't run by criminals. Maya and I got engaged 6 months after the trial. We're still in our townhome. Now when I look at my Ring doorbell footage, I see neighbors, not transient guests. I see a real community. The skills I developed fighting the HOA led to a new career path. I left the startup world and founded a company called HOA Transparency Solutions, software that helps homeowners analyze their HOA finances for fraud indicators. We've helped uncover corruption in 12 other communities so far. People ask if it was worth it. The stress, the time, the risk of being sued. I always give the same answer. I'm a software engineer. When I see a system with bad logic, I fix it. The HOA was just a particularly corrupt system that needed debugging. And the algorithm I built to expose them? That code is now open source. Any homeowner can use it to analyze their own HOA. Because transparency isn't just good engineering practice. It's how you prevent corruption from taking root in the first place. Sometimes the best revenge isn't emotional. It's systematic, data-driven, and absolutely devastating. For more of this type of stories, subscribe to our channel also. You can suggest the topic to make any kind of video related to our content.